we have qualitative data. Okay, the first part we have frequency distribution. What we're going to do on this part is that first step we have to list our data. And step 2, we have to count how many times we have for each one. So list the number of times for each category of data. Next one is a relative frequency. This is kind of something like finding probability. So it's same thing. Later you're gonna see that we have same thing, but we have different words. So in this chapter we're gonna use relative frequency, and how we can find it is by dividing frequency divided by sum of all frequencies. So this is the frequency on top that we got from this part. So a number of times for each category of data that we have divided by sum of all frequencies. We're going to work on examples so that way you can better see what that means. Okay, so here is the example. Let's work on this one and find frequency and relative frequency. Here we have this table. So this is relative frequency distribution of the color of plain M&Ms. So we have these colors on the first column. This is tally, frequency, relative frequency. So I have to count how many browns we have here in this table. Okay, so here we should have 12 browns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and one more here, 12. Okay, so we have 12 brown. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And writing frequency, exactly same number on this part. Now here we have yellow. So how many yellow we have? We should have 10 total. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 yellow. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now here we have blue. We have 3 total. Blue. So 1, 2, and one more. It's one. This one, 3. And green, we should have 5. So it's that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now that we have our frequency, so number of times that we have for each one, now we can find relative frequency. First step to find frequency, relative frequency is that we should find sum of frequencies. So we should add all these to find sum. So this is equal to 45. This is sum of all frequencies. Okay, next step. Now we can find relative frequency. How we can find that? Divide each number by total sum of frequency. So 12 divided by 45, 0.2667. So I'm going to write all these in here is 4 decimal places and also 2, because that is hard to grab. This is 0.27. I rounded that one. Okay, or this is equal to 26.67%. Now next one is 10 divided by 45. We have 0.2222. Again, I'm going to round this one to 2 decimal place. We have 0.22. Now here we have 9 divided by 40, 20%. So 6 divided by 45. We have 0.1333. Here we have 0.13. And that is 13.33%. Okay, so here we have relative frequency. If you add all these numbers, so by adding these numbers, we should have this equal to 1. So adding that should be equal to 1 or very close to 1. Why I said that, that very close? Because since we're rounding, and this sum may not be exactly equal to 1. And also same thing on for this part, if you add all these, because since here we used percent, adding all these, that should be equal to 100%. Now here we have bar graph. We want to use that example to work on this board. Okay, so we're going to label each category of data in either horizontal or vertical axis. So we're going to use horizontal, vertical axis, and the frequency or relative frequency of category of on the other axis. So our data is on either horizontal or vertical, and the other one is for frequency or relative frequency. And here we have rectangles of equal width are drawn for each category. So we have equal width for each one. And the height of each rectangle represents the calories frequency or relative frequency. It depends on which one we're working on. For example, here in part A, we're gonna work on frequency. So let's work on this one. This part A for frequency. I'm going to use horizontal line for our data, and our data was here on the first column was color. So that is our data that we have. We worked on this part. Data is color. We already have all these here in horizontal line. And on this part, since part A is frequency, on this vertical axis I have frequency. So here is frequency. And now we work based on the this column for frequency. These are the numbers that we had. The smallest one was 3, and here is 12. And here we're starting from 0. So that is 0. I'm going to use 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And let's have 14 here on top. Okay, so the first one is brown. For brown, the frequency is 12. So finding 12 here on vertical axis. Now draw this rectangle. Okay, so that is brown. And here frequency is 12. Next one. For yellow, we have 10. Frequency is 10. Is that one. So find 10 on vertical axis. Next one, red. For red, we have 9. Orange is 6. Blue is 3. And finally, green is 5. Okay, so this graph was for a bar graph for M&M color. I'm going to write this one on top. Bar graph for M&M color. And what we used here was our x-axis was for colors, and y-axis or vertical line, this one was frequency. Okay, so this one was for part A, frequency bar graph. Now we're gonna do the same thing for to find relative frequency bar graph. Okay, same thing. Now here we have color. Now this part, instead of frequency, now is relative. So relative frequency. And here on top, this one is bar graph. Again for M&M. Okay, now we're gonna work based on this column relative frequency, and since these are hard to find when trying to graph, I'm going to use these numbers. So the first one is okay, the first one is 0.27, then we have 0.22, so we have all these. And I'm going to start from 0 again. So here is 0. Since we have 7%, yeah, we have 0.07. That's why here I'm going to use 0.05 and 0.10. 0.15, 0.20. Okay, next one for yellow, we have 0.22. Okay, orange, we have 0.13. Okay, blue, we have 0.07. And final green is 0.11. Okay, so here again, for x-axis, we had colors. And y-axis, now in this part was relative frequency. Okay, now that we have put on these two parts, if you compare, you can see that we have same shape bar graph. Here for the chart, what is this one is so we had this part on top bar graph. We're gonna use exactly the same thing. For example, this bar graph for relative frequency. As I said, here first we have decreasing order. We have decreasing, and after that we have increasing. For predator chart, we don't want to have that. We want to have all these in one order. So we're going to use green first, and after that blue. So we're going to interchange these two to have decreasing order for all of these. So this predator chart is bar graph whose bars are drawn in decreasing order of frequency or relative frequency. So this is for relative frequency that we had on the previous bar graph. And you can see that instead of having blue here and then green, now we have green, and then after that we have blue. So we changed order to have decreasing order for this relative frequency. Okay, so bar graphs that have categories arranged in decreasing order of frequency helps for decision making. That is in areas such as quality control, human resources, and marketing. But this order usually doesn't matter. But if you had put a chart, you have to use this decreasing order. That is because we want to make decision based on the order of these frequencies that we have, or relative frequency. Okay, with this next one, we have side-by-side bar graph. Okay, this one is to compare data. Since we have side-by-side bar graph, we can use this one to compare our data. And for this one, if you use frequency, that will be hard to find or make decision. So usually for this side by side, we use relative frequency. So we're going to use relative frequency for side by side bar graph. Okay, I should have that one here. So data set should be compared by using relative frequencies, because different sample or population sizes make reasons using frequency difficult. So that will be difficult or misleading if you use frequencies. So just keep in mind when you have side by side, you only use relative frequency. Then here we have example number 3. Okay, so we have two data. The first one column is for 1990 and second column is for 2006. And what we have on this part is frequency, and here also is frequency. Because that number is how many times we have for this data. So near married, we have 40.4 for in 1990, married, widow, and divorce. What we have to do first before graphing, we should find relative frequency because we're not able to use these data. Okay, so I'm trying out a box here. Okay, I'm writing that for here. Okay, so this column is for 1990. Here we have 2006. This is near married, married, widow, and divorced. So first step to find relative frequencies, this one is for relative frequency for both of these. First step, we have to find sum for both of these. 40.4, because that frequency is 40.4, and divide by sum is 181.9. For this one, I'm going to run to 3 decimal places because I don't, sometimes if we run to 1 or 2 decimal places, we may have exactly the same number. Because in this case, we have one like that. But for graphing, I will use at most 2 decimal places. So let's first find these numbers. So for this one is 112.6 divided by 181.9. This one is 13.8 divided by sum. And here is 15.1 divided by sum. Okay, rounding that one is 0.222. Here is 0.619. 0.076, and this one is 0.083. See, if I run this one to 2 decimal places and same thing here, we're gonna have exactly the same answer. We're gonna have 0.08 for both of these, but these two are not exactly the same. And that's why it's better to use 3 or 4 decimal places first, and then later when graphing, you can say that we should have difference between these two bar graphs. Okay, now do same thing for 2006. We have 55.3. Okay, you change color. So divided by sum is 219.7. Here 127.7 divided by sum. Finally, this one is 0.104. Okay, once again, if you add all these numbers, that should be equal to 1. That should be equal to 1. Yeah, this is exactly equal to 1. It's not close to that. So that is 1. Now we can graph this. Okay, I don't need that one. So we're going to use this part. Okay, so what we have here is I'm going to use this red color for 1990. And green for 2006. Okay, I'm writing the data that we have here in horizontal line. They're married. Here we have married. Widow and divorced. Okay, so we have all these, and here on the virtual line we have relative frequency, and I'm starting here 0. Then I have, let's say I'm going to use 0.1 or 10%, so 0.2, or we can say that is 0.10, 0.20, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. Okay, so for 1990, I'm going to use that color. Now here we have never married. We got 222, but here I'm going to use 2 decimal place. So that is 0.20, and this is 0.30, and this one is 0.22. So you have to divide by 10. Zoom in. So divide by 10. Here we have 0.20, 0.21, 0.22. Now green is for 2006. And for 2006, we have 0.252. I'm running that one to 0.25. So it's 0.25. Now for married, we have 0.619. So it's 0.62. Now for widow, we have, this number is, see, this one is a 0.08 if I run it, and same thing on this part. So let's draw both of these together, because I don't want to have exactly the same thing. So in this case, if I use 0.08, we're gonna have exactly the same, but that is not correct. So this is 0.10, and that is 0.08. That is 6, 7. It's kind of hard graph like this. So we have the difference between these two graphs for widow and divorce. Oops. So this one for widow, I have 0.076, and here is 0.083. So the difference between these two. And now relative frequency for this part for widow, we have 0.06. And for divorce, we have 0.10. So it's a little bit higher than 10. So this is our side-by-side or graph. The point is that we want to compare between these two colors. Okay, so here we have, this is for never married, and that is data for 1990, and comparing that with 2006. So we have increasing order. For married, we have decreasing. Then widow, we have decreasing again, and divorce is increasing. So from 1990 to 2006, that relative frequency for divorce part is increasing. So this is what we have for this part, and on top we can write this one. We compare these two data sets. So this is in 1990 versus 2006. Okay, so that was side by side, and this one is a pie chart. This part we're going to divide into sectors. So each sector representing category of data, and the area of each sector is proportional to the frequency of the category. Okay, I have exactly same data. This is from, let's see, this is from 2006. Yeah, this is from this one, exactly same numbers, and that was for 2006. So I can use all that I got and that for relative frequency. I'm writing that for here. This is 25.2%. That is 58.1%, 6.3%, and this one is 10.4%. I use exactly the same thing, but in percent. Now, if you add them, that will be equal to 100%. And now we have to divide into sectors. Then we have married, we have 58.1%. Okay, other one, this example, I think you have same thing like that in your homework. Okay, so this what we have this table for blood type, and we want to construct a frequency distribution and relative frequency. Okay, so this is what we have blood type. Here is frequency, and this one relative frequency. And for the first one, I'm going to use A. Here is EB. This one B. And finally off. Okay, now we have to count how many times we have blood type A here in this part. We should have 18. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 18. So we have 18, and for AB we have 4, B is 6, and O 22. In this part, sum of frequencies that is equal to 50. So this is sum. So sum is 50. I don't want to write that one here because you may say, okay, that was for frequency, so let's not write that one here. So sum is 50. Now to find relative frequency, we have to divide each one by sum. So 18 divided by 50. So exactly same thing that we did on the previous examples. Now here we have 4 divided by 50. This one is 6 divided by 50. And finally this one, 22 divided by 50. Okay, rounding that is 0.36 or 36%, 34% in this part. Okay, now we have to answer questions. So that was what this one was for part A and B. Frequency, this column, and relative frequency, this column. Now part C, according to data, which blood type is most common? So meaning that which one has the highest frequency? So the answer is type O. Now part D, according to data, which blood type is least common? So in this part we have AB. Okay, the frequency for this one is 4. Okay, now part E. Use the result of sample to okay. Okay, we want to have percentage of population that has here we have type O blood. Is this an example of descriptive or inferential statistic? Okay, so this is sample that we have, and here we're gonna work on based on the type of blood. And for that one, we got this answer for elective frequency is 44%. But this 44% is not for our population. This is for 50 patients, and this 50 patients was our sample. So this was our sample, and here we have type O. So we have type O blood, and for the that one we got 44%. I want to see if can we extend these this result and make decision for population. So we estimate that 44% of the population has type O blood. And this is inferential. And that is because a conclusion is about population that was based on our sample. So if you were to contact a local hospital and ask them the percentage of the population that is blood type, well, why might the result differ? So we may have different results because we may have different samples. They may have, for example, I said, okay, let's say we assume that we had 100 patients in total and we choose to have 50 patients per sample. What if they had, for example, 150 patients total and their sample was 30 patients? So obviously they're gonna have different results and they may have different results. So it's not same because of that having different sample. Okay, so here we have so we may have different results because having different sample. Okay, so here we have blood type is horizontal line, and here for vertical line, this one is frequency, and this one is relative. Okay, I'm going to write these in order that I have here on top: A, B, B, O. And here starting 0. So same thing for the sport. We have 0.10, 0.20, 0.40, and 0.50. So this is for blood types, this graph. Same thing here. Okay, now what we have for A is 18, and we have 4. And for B, we have 6, and that is 22. Okay, now for relative frequency. For relative frequency, this one is 36%. So that is 30%. Here is 40%. In between 35 and so that one is 36. Now for AB, I want to have these in between of that rectangle. So now for AB, we have 8%. So this is 10%. Okay, let me draw that again. It's very close to 9%. Okay, so 8%, and that one is 12%. And finally, 44%. Okay, as I said, I want to have these blood type here in between to show that this rectangle is for that one. Okay, so we did for G, H, and I have this one, draw a pie chart. So I'm writing that way for this one. And here was B, and that is 12%. Here is A, and it's 36%. So that is for this one. This is for this part. And finally, this one is 44%. So for this one, I choose to have this order.